This past weekend was WWE Elimination Chamber 2026, and yeah, the show overall was not great. I'm not gonna lie. It felt like going into it, we could have done a lot of good stuff, a lot of unpredictable stuff. But unfortunately, things just didn't live up to that expectation. A lot of people within the Elimination Chamber matches didn't have the showings that I was hoping for, and yeah, it just felt, after watching it and then after rewatching it again, things just kind of felt a bit flat. And, you know, it's not the best thing when it comes to a pay-per-view so close to WrestleMania, especially when there's a lot of WrestleMania implications for it. It feels like, especially in the WWE Championship realm, actually more stuff is going to happen in the weekly shows than it does that happened at Elimination Chamber, which is kind of unfortunate. But yeah, as I said, overall, it was a pretty okay show. Like, I'd probably give it like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. It wasn't anything special. But yeah, let's get into the review and kind of break down the match bit by bit. So the show kicked off with Rhea Ripley winning the Elimination Chamber for the women, defeating Raquel Rodriguez, Asuka, Kiana James, Alexa Bliss, and Tiffany Stratton to book her shot at the Women's Championship at WrestleMania. Overall, the match wasn't great. It wasn't like one of the worst chambers, but it also was. There's been a lot better chambers as well. I'd say the match didn't really pick up until Raquel entered the match, and at that point, Raquel really went on a bit of a... just went on a bit of a roll. She was defeating everyone. She got the double pin on Kiana James and Asuka, which I thought was a really cool moment for her. But as my brother said, now I look back at it, it's kind of a case of once you give Raquel that big moment, it kind of feels like she's not going to win the match. You know, getting a double elimination, stacking up two pretty phenomenal, well, a former world champion in Asuka and a up-and-comer in Kiana James, you're kind of not going to do much else other than that in the match. Which is a bit of a shame. I would have loved to see Raquel win this match and then target Stephanie Vaquer, leaving the Women's Championship in a bit of a lingo. But, you know, it was fine. You know, I was expecting a little bit more of Kiana James. I thought that her having Kiana James start the match, I thought had the potential of having her have a really good showing within the match, similar to the Royal Rumble, where she had a good half an hour showing in that match as well. For me, Tiffany Stratton was the MVP of the match, just because she started at number 1. She did keep the match flowing at times, and yeah, she just had, a very good performance, similar to Raquel Rodriguez. I can't say that it coming down to Rhea Ripley and Tiffany Stratton was massively shocking. You know, they were the two massive favourites going in. Especially once Rhea lost the women's tag titles on SmackDown, you had to believe she was going to be a favourite going into this. There's really only 2 ways you can really look at Rhea winning. One of the ways is like, WrestleMania equals a title match for Rhea Ripley, which is I can understand why you think that way, but the flip side of the coin, and the side I'm choosing to look at it, is that Rhea versus Cargill is a fresh match. It's a match we've not seen before. We haven't seen them interact much, other than a few stare downs on SmackDown backstage, so I feel like this is bringing something new to WrestleMania, and you can't help but feel as if Bianca's supposed to be in this spot, but who better than to replace Bianca in a match than Rhea Ripley? So yeah, I think, as I said, I'm fine with the match. I don't know how good the match quality is going to be, because I don't think Jade Cargill has been properly tested yet, especially with the likes of Rhea Ripley. I know she's had matches with Jordynne Grace and Naomi, but I feel like they're two people who are more in the mid card and not to the point where they want Jade Cargill to be, which is at the upper main event card. So yeah, Rhea's probably the biggest match that Cargill's going to have in WWE to date. I'm curious to see how it goes. I worry for what Io Sky's going to be doing at WrestleMania, because I'm currently putting my WrestleMania card together for a video coming in a few weeks, and honestly, I don't know where Io fits in, and that's kind of a worry, because Io is one of the most popular women on the roster right now, and the fact that she doesn't really have a place at WrestleMania is very weird. But yeah, personally for WrestleMania though, I can see Cargill defeating Rhea Ripley. I feel like putting the Women's Championship back on Rhea Ripley again, well, I suppose it's not back on, just putting a major championship back on Rhea probably isn't the best spot right now. And it can't help but feel like, as I've said before, that Cargill is going to hold the title until Bianca comes back, and it feels like Bianca isn't that far away from coming back still. So, you know, maybe they're going to have Cargill retain and then hopefully Bianca returns after WrestleMania. But honestly, at this point, the worst finger injury of all time could take Bianca out till probably SummerSlam. So, you know, it's not what it is. But like I say, the Elimination Chamber match itself wasn't that good. I was very disappointed with it. I expected more out of Kiana James and Raquel Rodriguez. Well, Raquel had a good showing, but I just expected more out of people. I expected a better match. Unfortunately, it just wasn't the case. But, you know, sometimes things just fall the way they do. But Rhea winning probably wasn't my first choice. It definitely wasn't my second choice. But, you know, I'm curious to see what a Cargill versus Rhea match looks like. After that, we had AJ Lee defeat Becky Lynch to become the new Women's Intercontinental Champion. And yeah, I was really hoping I wasn't going to say this, but yeah, this really didn't deliver. I enjoyed the build. I thought these two have great chemistry on the mic. I thought that these two, you know, talking to each other, interacting within, you know, just promos, I thought was really great. I really enjoyed, the build to the match. But the match itself was slow, it was stagnant, you know, it was massively disappointing in my opinion. It kind of felt, I think this is going to be like a really bad way to put it, but the women of the era of 2015-ish, so Nikki Bella, Saraya, AJ Lee, they're all very similar in the way of like, they're just not that good in the ring. Like the Saraya in AEW, like some of their matches weren't that good, and you can kind of tell that it had been a while since she'd been in the ring, and it's very much the same here, and the same with Nikki Bella, where you could tell that these guys haven't been in the ring for a very long time, and maybe it's just ring rust, maybe it's just the fact of more training, and they'll get to a certain point, but yeah, this really wasn't that good. I want to say that it was disappointing, but like I wasn't expecting like a half an hour classic. You know, I'm not that naive, but I was expecting something a lot better. I expected Becky to kind of carry the match, but again, AJ had a lot of the offense, and it just still wasn't working. There was a few awkward moments where people just like they weren't. I don't want to say like they weren't falling properly, but like there was just moments where it just felt awkward, and yeah, it wasn't great. You got to believe this is going to lead to a rematch at WrestleMania. I'm hoping that the rematch will have no rules to it, so maybe these guys can be a little bit more loose within the rules of the confinement of the rules, if you will. But yeah, no, you got to believe this is going to be the WrestleMania match. I assume a stipulation will be added. What it will be, I have no idea. But yeah, I'm hoping that the match at WrestleMania will be a lot better than this one. But yeah, massively disappointed with how this went. It kind of gives me a little bit of hesitation towards the Mania match, because like if that goes just how this one does, then it's not going to be great either. But yeah, so hopefully they can turn it around and the rematch will be better. But yeah, just not great from this one. And yeah, I haven't got much else to say on this one. It really just wasn't that good. And I'm happy for AJ that she won the Intercontinental Championship. Not sure whether doing Elimination Chamber was the best shout, but I get it with it being in Chicago. But yeah, just overall disappointment from this one. Moving on to CM Punk versus Finn Balor, where CM Punk retained the World Heavyweight Championship. And yeah, speaking of not having much to say, I really don't have a lot to say on this one. The result was never going to go any other way. The people who honestly thought Finn Balor was going to win can put their heads quite nicely back in the sand again, because they're clearly just delusional. But yeah, the match was good though. I mean, I have really nothing much to say on this one. It was a very good match. It wasn't as good as their match on Raw in Ireland. I preferred that one when it was in Dublin, but yeah, I mean, overall, I said it was a good CM Punk and Finn Balor match. I don't think people expected it to be bad at all. I certainly didn't. But one thing I did notice that I found myself getting very distracted during the match. As far as like me and my brother were watching it and we were talking about other stuff on the pay-per-view, other stuff happening in WWE, rather than having a full concentration on the match. Because nothing about it was really like major. It didn't feel like a big championship match. I even said when they were doing the announcements, I was like, this doesn't feel like a World Heavyweight Championship match with important implications because it leads on to the main event of WrestleMania. It feels like a foregone conclusion that CM Punk will win this match and we will get Roman and Punk and we will move on swiftly afterwards. And that is kind of the case. Like, you know, Roman's back tonight on Monday Night Raw. I'm recording this on Sunday, but he's back tonight on Raw as far as the upload goes. And yeah, we'll kind of quite simply forget about Finn Balor facing CM Punk at this point, because it'll just be a case of, yeah, it was just a rivalry to have CM Punk do until Roman was free enough to come and back in for WrestleMania build, which is fine, and it was fully expected. And yeah, it's just, with the result being so predictable, it did take away from the match slightly. You know, there was that element of, could Finn Balor do it in Ireland, which kind of helped that match along, but yeah, so we move swiftly on to CM Punk and Roman Reigns on Raw, and yeah, it will be what it will be. But yeah, so the match was good. It just wasn't the great match I was expecting like they had on Raw, and they say the very predictable outcome definitely hurt the match. So I realised while editing this that I didn't mention the debut we saw at Elimination Chamber when the mystery crates got opened. And honestly, the reason I didn't mention it in my original recordings is because I'm trying to forget about it. Because, yeah, we saw the debut of Danhausen. He came out of the crate, he came out of a box within a box, well, a coffin within a box. They did this stupid dance number. He gave Michael Cole a jar of teeth and then left ever so suddenly. And yeah, I couldn't been more disappointed about this. I think as someone who's an avid watcher of AEW as well, I didn't like Danhausen the first time around when I was watching him on TV when he was in AEW. You put the guy with Orange Cassidy and he still couldn't get over. And now you're bringing him in WWE, he's completely skipped NXT. When honestly, the guy should probably be in Evolve, let alone NXT. But yeah, this is a bizarre move, especially to have it go on the segment before the main event. Just not great. I'm not saying that my expectations were too high, but I just expected someone a bit more impactful than Danhausen. Because honestly, I have no idea how he fits in here. Like, we have our truth. We don't need another stupid-ass comedy character. So yeah, not a big fan of this Danhausen thing. I couldn't have less of an interest in it either. So yeah, as far as this whole thing goes, I'm trying to forget about it and hoping that this is just a one-off thing and he ends up going down to NXT. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think he's going to be a main roster mainstay, and I have absolutely no idea where this is going, because if you can't book a group like the White Six, you're not going to be able to book Danhausen. So it's an interesting move, it's a unique move, and I'm really not sure about this at all. And finally, in the main event, Randy Orton won the Elimination Chamber to go on to face the WWE Champion at WrestleMania. He defeated Cody Rhodes, Logan Paul, Javon Evans, Trick Williams, and somebody else, who is LA Knight. So bad, I feel bad forgetting about LA Knight. But overall, it was definitely the more enjoyable of the two chamber matches, in my opinion. I feel like, though, as a overall chamber, it was good, but there was nowhere near the greats that have happened within the Elimination Chamber. I wouldn't say this is like a top 10 chamber, for example. Javon Evans got his big high-flying spot, but it wasn't the clip crazy spot that I think people were expecting, and especially with the stuff that he does on Raw. It's kind of the case of we expected something a lot bigger. I certainly expected something bigger. I'm not expecting him to be the Darby Allin of WWE, but just to do a basic frog splash, I thought was maybe not great. Like, I don't say it's not great, because it's still very, like, impressive. Like, I certainly couldn't do it, but, you know, it's a case of when it comes to Javon Evans, you got to think that he wanted to do something else, and they kind of stopped him, if that makes sense. But, you know, that's pure speculation. On the subject of expectations, Trick Williams and LA Knight should have done way more within this match. Trick Williams had a good flurry at times, but it wasn't the star-making performance I was kind of hoping this was going to be for Trick Williams. As for LA Knight, he did a great load of F-all in this match. I know that he had the little botch that he did. Honestly, it happens. I'm not going to go into it. It's silly if you do want to go into it, because it is just one of those things where the ring is going to be... Essentially, the ropes are going to be slippery because it's got sweaty people on it all night. So yeah, it's going to happen, and I'm not going to go into it. Very questionable having Logan Paul eliminate half the field. To say that he wasn't even supposed to be in the match, you have to believe it was Bron Breakker that was supposed to be in the match, and then it was supposed to be Bronson Reed in the match, and it ended up being Logan. For him to eliminate half the field is pretty crazy, to be fair. He eliminated Javon Evans, Trick Williams, and LA Knight. LA Knight rolled up after a low blow, just not great at all. You know, as much as seeing him get to the Elimination Chamber feels like a step forward, the way he gets eliminated feels like a step back for him. So, yeah, very worried about him on the road to WrestleMania, especially if the rumours indeed end up being true and he ends up being fed to a beast. I really just don't want that to happen. But I feel it's obviously... Ober versus Brock is clearly the match that they should be doing, but if they do put Knight in that position, I'm going to be worried about how that all goes down, because I cannot see LA Knight defeating Brock Lesnar in any kind of way. Yeah, not a big fan to say of the eliminations. We saw the real Masked Man reveal, I know, on SmackDown, and just moments before Rollins was revealed as the Masked Man, we saw somebody else do it. I believe they're two people who were training at Rollins' school, his wrestling school, which makes perfect sense. There's still links to Rollins there, and then obviously we get the reveal of Seth Rollins, who then costs Logan Paul the match. You have to believe that will lead to a WrestleMania 39 rematch. Obviously, circumstances has very much changed how this match is supposed to be. You have to believe that Bron Breakker versus Rollins was going to be the match. Then Bronson Reed versus Rollins was going to be the match. But instead we're doing Logan and Seth, which is fine. We know these two can go in the ring. If anything, it might be a better match than the WrestleMania 39 match because Logan will have got better in the ring by then. So yeah, I mean, well, better in the ring to this point than he was back then. So yeah, I mean, I've got no issues with this. As I said, unforeseen circumstances have changed this one. It's nothing to do with the two people involved. I'm very happy to see Seth Rollins back because we're missing Seth Rollins in the build to WrestleMania, and yeah, as I could be happier that he's back. We then saw Drew interfere as well. He attacked Cody Rhodes. He had a bit of a brief interaction with Randy Orton, but Drew was there for Cody alone. And yeah, he would interfere and he would cost Cody Rhodes the match. Honestly, we need to get that Elimination Chamber door looked at pronto. Every year for the past, maybe in 3 to 4 years, we have seen someone interfere in these Elimination Chamber matches. So either we change how things, so if you get eliminated, you go back into the pod and you get lowered down again, so people can't get in that way, or just have the referees we can have a special guest enforcer like Omos come in and be in charge of the door so then no one else can get in. That'd be great. But yeah, not great as far as another interference. Well, technically it's not even another interference. It was 2 interferences in one Elimination Chamber, which was crazy to think about. But yeah, we saw Cody Rhodes get attacked by Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre would eat an RKO, and then Cody Rhodes would eat an RKO as well, and that would cost him the match, and Randy Orton would win. Now, I find it very funny that Cody and Randy Orton were the final 2, and yet it took one move to eliminate Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. It's the case of the absolute least amount of contact between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton made, and yet they were the final 2 in the Elimination Chamber. Is quite funny in my opinion. But we also now know that on Friday night on SmackDown we're going to be getting Drew versus Cody Rhodes, and honestly, I can see Cody Rhodes winning the championship here. This leads to Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, the match that a lot of people have been wanting for the longest time. And then Cody wins the title through Jacob costing Drew McIntyre. The match would then lead to Drew versus Jacob at WrestleMania. So it all kind of seems like it's coming all together when it comes to WrestleMania. Personally, I would have preferred the Fatal 4-Way match. I would have preferred Cody versus Randy versus Jacob versus Drew. But I'm fine with the 2 singles matches as well. I'm just glad it isn't Drew and Orton and then Cody and Jacob. But overall, as I said, it's pretty much the same blueprint every year with the Men's Elimination Chamber. And it's just not, I don't know, it's not becoming tedious because I'm someone who enjoys the interference parts of matches, and sometimes it can really help the match. And not just talking about WrestleMania 40 and that main event, but honestly, a lot of matches more recently since then have been helped by the fact of interference. But when we get to the Men's Elimination Chamber and we just know that someone's going to interfere, it becomes a little bit tedious in a way. I don't mind it. I kind of enjoyed it here as well. But I can understand why people would be annoyed with it. Maybe next year's Elimination Chamber, we just have someone win clean. That would be the best way to do it. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a fun watch. I enjoyed it for the most part. We've made WrestleMania being 6 to 7 weeks away. I'm fully excited going into WrestleMania. And yeah, I think if Cody and Orton is the way they're going, then I am very curious about the feud and the build going into that. So those are my thoughts and opinions on Elimination Chamber 2026. I am curious to see what you guys' opinions are on this event. So do comment below what your thoughts and opinions on it as well. And yeah, overall, it wasn't the best pay-per-view. I was really expecting a lot more out of this one, and we got a very little out of it, in my opinion. Yes, we got a new champion in AJ Lee, but yeah, other than that, it really didn't feel that impactful. I'm glad that Randy Orton got the win other than Cody Rhodes. I would have preferred if Randy Orton had won anyway. So yeah, glad that Cody Rhodes didn't just win the Elimination Chamber and that'd be it. But yeah, this year has a very 2023 feel to it, with Roman winning the Rumble, Cody being in the world title match, probably the WrestleMania, and Rhea Ripley winning the Elimination Chamber. But you know, it's what it is. I mean, all 3 people can be relied upon whenever, so I'm not massively annoyed by this. But yeah, I'm curious to see what you guys have got saying. Well, I'm curious to see what you guys have got thoughts about this. As far as the channel goes, there is going to be coverage of NXT Vengeance Day coming up this week, and then in a couple of weeks after that, there's going to be coverage of Revolution, so do look out for those matches. There will be episode 3 of the Retrospective coming as well, which is going to be all about WWE in 2003. So do stick out for those, do subscribe, do like the video if you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.